Hey there, welcome to a deep dive into the world of aquaculture husbandry technicians. We're going to really try to give you the inside scoop on this one.
It's a really interesting field, and honestly, it's becoming more and more important all the time.
That's what I'm gathering, especially with all these concerns about overfishing and the growing demand for seafood.
Exactly. I was reading that aquaculture is actually on track to be supplying two-thirds of the world's fish by 2030.
Wow, two-thirds. Okay, that's a big deal.
Huge. So it's no surprise that more and more people are looking into this as a career.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. What exactly does an aquaculture husbandry technician do? I mean, I have a vague picture in my head. Someone in those big rubber boots, surrounded by water.
You're not wrong, but it's definitely more than just waiting around in ponds.
Right, there's got to be more to it than that.
Think of it this way, an aquaculture husbandry technician is kind of like the guardian of this carefully controlled underwater ecosystem.
Okay, I like that. So instead of fields, their office is a fish farm or maybe a hatchery.
Exactly. Or even a research facility. And their whole job revolves around making sure the fish or shellfish they're raising are healthy, growing properly, basically thriving.
It's like being a farmer, but underwater.
Exactly.
So what would someone in this role actually be doing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it can vary a lot depending on the type and size of the operation and, of course, how much experience you have.
Right, that makes sense.
But there are some pretty universal tasks like monitoring water quality.
Oh, right, making sure the water's not too hot or too cold.
Exactly. Checking things like temperature, oxygen levels, pH, all that good stuff. It's all about making sure the environment is perfect for whatever species they're raising.
Like being an underwater landscaper, in a way.
There you go. You've got it.
So we've got water quality.
Yeah.
What else falls under their job description?
Feeding is a big one. They're responsible for coming up with and implementing feeding regimes, and it's more involved than you might think.
Really? Tell me more about that.
It's not just about sprinkling fish food on the surface. They have to figure out the right type of food for the species, how much they need, how often to feed them, even the best way to deliver the food.
Wow, so you need a good understanding of like fish biology and nutrition to do this job well.
Absolutely. You really do.
It's not just about loving fish, it's about knowing how to keep them alive and thriving. What about the tanks or ponds themselves? Who takes care of cleaning those and keeping everything in good shape?
That's definitely part of the job, too. Maintaining a clean environment is so important in aquaculture. We're talking removing waste, cleaning those tanks or ponds, making sure the water is circulating properly.
It sounds like it could be pretty physically demanding work.
It can be, yeah, but it's essential for preventing disease and helping those fish grow.
So we've got water quality, feeding, cleaning. It's like running a miniature underwater city.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
And all those tasks require a pretty unique set of skills.
And the sources we have actually dive into the specific skills needed at each career level, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how those evolve as you move up the ladder.
From trainee all the way to supervisor, there's a lot to unpack there.
And it's not just about having the right technical know-how either.
Right. You need those soft skills too,
Yeah.
like problem solving, attention to detail.
For sure. And being able to work independently and as part of a team.
Which makes sense, especially in an environment like that, right? Things can change quickly.
Exactly. You need to be able to think on your feet and adapt to whatever comes your way.
So speaking of different career levels, these RoleCatcher sources you found, they highlight those progressions, right? What are some of the key differences between, say, a trainee and a junior technician?
A trainee would probably start off by assisting with those more routine tasks like we talked about,
Mhm.
things like cleaning tanks, prepping food, just observing the fish and their behavior.
Okay, so getting a feel for the basics.
Right. And as they gain experience and knowledge, they might move up to that junior technician role.
Which comes with more responsibility. What kind of things might a junior technician be doing that a trainee wouldn't, for example?
Well, they might be trusted to conduct water quality tests on their own, maybe assist with fish health checks, even help develop feeding strategies.
Okay, so it's a definite step up in terms of both knowledge and hands-on experience.
Yes,
And I imagine that progression continues as you climb that career ladder, right?
absolutely. There are definitely clear steps you can take to advance in this field.
We've got a lot more to uncover about those higher level roles and what they entail. But first, I want to get into the realities of the work environment.
Sure, let's get into it.
Because the sources you shared don't shy away from the challenges of this line of work.
No, they definitely don't.
So let's be real, this is probably not the career path for someone who prefers to work in a climate-controlled office, right?
Probably not, no. While it can be incredibly rewarding, it can also be really demanding physically.
Right, because you're often working outdoors no matter the weather.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One day it could be scorching hot, the next day pouring rain.
And you're still out there taking care of the fish.
That's the job.
Plus, you're working with live animals, which I imagine means you're constantly dealing with unexpected situations. It's not exactly predictable 9 to 5, is it?
Not at all. There can be long hours, sometimes irregular hours, especially during those critical times like spawning or harvesting.
So you have to be adaptable and ready for anything.
Yeah,
But I have a feeling that's part of the appeal for people who are drawn to this field.
absolutely. If you thrive on challenges, you enjoy working with your hands, you have this deep respect for the natural world,
It could be a perfect fit.
it could be an amazing fit. And it's a chance to be part of a growing industry that's really making a difference.
Right. Addressing global food security in a sustainable way. And it seems like with all the advancements in technology, there are only going to be more opportunities in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of technology, those RoleCatcher insights you mentioned, they offer some really fascinating perspectives on how AI and automation are already starting to change the aquaculture game.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about the more practical aspects of the job, but I'm really interested to hear more about how technology is impacting things, both in terms of the job search and the future of the profession itself.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. Like on the job search front, AI is already having a big impact.
Really? How so?
Well, platforms like RoleCatcher, they're using AI to analyze job descriptions, figure out those really relevant keywords,
Okay.
and then they can actually offer personalized feedback on resumes and cover letters to help you tailor your application.
That's amazing. So instead of just sending out a generic application and hoping for the best, you can use AI to really target your approach.
Exactly.
That's incredible. I can definitely see how that would be a huge help, especially in such a competitive job market.
Oh, for sure. But you're right, AI is also transforming the aquaculture industry itself in some pretty incredible ways.
Okay, so you're saying it's not just about the job search, it's about the actual work itself.
Right. Think about it this way. Imagine a world where you have AI-powered sensors that are constantly monitoring the water quality in those tanks or ponds.
Yeah, okay, I'm picturing it.
And these sensors are so sensitive, they can pick up on even the slightest changes in temperature, oxygen levels.
Even things like harmful bacteria.
Exactly. It's like having a 247 watchdog for your fish, alerting you to potential problems before they even become serious issues.
That would be a game changer for sure.
And it goes beyond just monitoring. AI can actually help optimize feeding schedules, adjust the lighting conditions to help the fish grow faster.
Wow, so instead of relying solely on human observation and like gut feeling, you have these algorithms that are helping you make more informed decisions.
Exactly.
That's incredible. So aquaculture farms of the future, they could be run partially by robots.
In a sense, yes. Of course, human expertise is always going to be essential, but by incorporating AI and automation.
Right. You're just giving those humans even more tools to do their jobs even better. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what does all this mean for the people who are already working in this field or who are hoping to break into it?
That's the big question, right? Will robots eventually replace aquaculture husbandry technicians altogether?
Right. Is that the future we're looking at?
It's a valid concern, but personally, I think the role is more likely to evolve rather than disappear completely.
Okay, so instead of being replaced by robots, they'll be working alongside them.
Exactly. And those skills we talked about earlier, like problem solving, adaptability, being tech savvy.
Those are going to be more important than ever.
For sure. We might even see entirely new roles emerge within aquaculture.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, you might have people who specialize in data analysis, AI system management, that kind of thing.
So you're saying instead of fearing the rise of the machines, aspiring aquaculture husbandry technicians should see it as an opportunity.
Absolutely. The future of aquaculture is full of potential, and the human element is still going to be a vital part of it.
I like that. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but we haven't really touched on the education and skills that are needed to actually get started in this field.
We haven't gotten there yet, but it's definitely something worth exploring.
Let's unpack that next.
So we were talking about the career ladder in aquaculture.
Right, and how there are these clear steps you can take to advance in this field.
Exactly.
We touched on trainees and junior technicians,
Yeah.
but what comes after that?
Well, typically the next step up would be a senior aquaculture husbandry technician.
Okay, so that's where your experience really starts to pay off.
Exactly. At that level, you're not just doing the tasks, you're taking on more of a leadership role.
Mentoring the newer folks.
Yeah, you might be responsible for training and supervising junior staff, for example, or developing feeding schedules for the whole operation.
Wow, so you have a much bigger impact. What about things like breeding programs? Would a senior technician be involved in that?
Absolutely. They might be designing and implementing those programs.
So you really need a deep understanding of the entire life cycle of the species you're working with. What kind of qualifications would someone need to reach that senior technician level?
Well, it's definitely a combination of education and experience. Many senior technicians have a degree or a diploma in something like aquaculture or marine biology.
Makes sense. You need that solid foundation of knowledge.
Yeah, but they've also probably worked their way up the ranks, gaining all that valuable on-the-job experience.
Right, proving themselves in the field. And I bet this is where those example profiles we mentioned earlier would be super helpful.
Totally. Because you can actually see how someone went from trainee to senior technician.
Right. What were the challenges they faced? What skills did they have to develop along the way?
It's like having a roadmap.
Exactly. So for those who are really ambitious, it doesn't end at senior technician. Right. We've also got that top-level role to discuss.
Right. Aquaculture Husbandry Technicians Supervisor.
Now that sounds important. What sets that role apart?
At that level, you're basically overseeing the entire operation.
Wow. So that could be a single site? Or
It could be, or even multiple locations.
okay, so you're responsible for a lot. What kinds of things fall under the supervisor's umbrella?
Well, you're talking budget management, strategic planning.
Making sure everyone's following all the industry regulations.
Exactly. And ultimately, you're the one making those big picture decisions that impact the entire business.
It sounds like you need a pretty unique skill set for that. You need that technical expertise, but you also need to be a good leader, have those business smarts.
Absolutely. It's demanding for sure, but it can also be incredibly rewarding.
Because as supervisor, you're really shaping the direction of the whole operation, right? You can implement new ideas, maybe even push for more sustainable practices.
Exactly. You have a real opportunity to make a difference, both for your company and for the industry as a whole.
And I imagine that with all the new technology coming into play in aquaculture, those leadership skills, that ability to adapt and solve problems, it's only going to become more and more important, right?
100%. The aquaculture industry is changing rapidly, and the supervisors of the future, they'll need to be comfortable with all that.
So we've talked about the more practical aspects of the career path, but now I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier,
Which was?
those RoleCatcher insights and how AI is changing the game for aspiring aquaculture husbandry technicians.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to dive into that.
Okay, cool.
Say, we talk about how AI can help with the job search itself, tailoring your application and making sure you stand out.
Right, those AI-powered resume analysis tools and all that.
Exactly. But I'm curious to hear more about how AI is actually being used on the farms themselves.
Yeah, that's the really exciting part.
Because it sounds like it has the potential to completely revolutionize the way things are done.
It really does. Like, remember those AI-powered sensors we talked about?
The ones that can detect tiny changes in water quality.
Yeah, those are becoming more and more common on aquaculture farms.
So it's not just a futuristic concept anymore. It's actually happening right now.
It is. And they're not just being used to monitor water quality either. Some farms are using AI to optimize feeding schedules, to adjust the lighting in the tanks.
To make sure the fish are as comfortable and healthy as possible.
Exactly. And because AI can process huge amounts of data really quickly, it can actually help farmers identify patterns and trends that humans might miss.
Wow, so it's like having an extra set of eyes, but these eyes are powered by algorithms.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Okay, so AI can help with monitoring. It can help with optimizing conditions. Is it also being used to, predict disease outbreaks?
You're reading my mind. Because, yes, some researchers are working on AI systems that can actually analyze fish behavior and water quality data to predict disease outbreaks before they even happen.
That's incredible. So instead of waiting for fish to get sick and then trying to treat them, you can use AI to get ahead of the problem.
Exactly. And that can obviously make a huge difference, both for the health of the fish and the profitability of the farm.
It's amazing to think about how far things have come.
It is, and it really highlights how important it is for people entering this field to be comfortable with technology.
Right, because it's not just about loving fish anymore. It's about understanding how to use these high-tech tools to provide the best possible care.
Absolutely. But speaking of providing care, we should probably talk about the skills and education that are needed to actually work in this field.
Yes, let's do that. So let's say you're listening to all this and you're thinking, okay, this sounds amazing. I want to be an aquaculture husbandry technician. Where do I even start?
It's a great question. And the good news is there are a few different paths you can take. It's not like you absolutely need a certain degree to get your foot in the door.
Okay, so it's a little more flexible than some other career paths. What are some of those different paths?
Well, some people do come into this field with a formal degree, like a bachelor's in aquaculture science or marine biology.
That makes sense. You're getting a really solid foundation and all the science behind it.
Exactly. You're learning about fish biology, aquatic ecology, water quality management, all those essential things.
Right. But what about those who are more hands-on learners? Are there options for them to get some practical experience without spending 4 years in college?
Absolutely. There are tons of community colleges and technical schools that offer certificate or diploma programs in things like aquaculture technology or aquaculture husbandry.
And those programs are more focused on the practical day-to-day skills you would actually be using on the job.
Exactly. So you might learn how to build and maintain those aquaculture systems, how to identify and treat fish diseases, even how to harvest and process seafood properly.
It's like a crash course in the hands-on aspects of the job.
Exactly.
And I imagine those internships or apprenticeships we hear about, those could be really helpful too.
Absolutely. Even volunteering at a local fish farm can give you some valuable experience.
Because it's one thing to read about it in a textbook.
Right.
But it's totally different to actually be out there getting your hands dirty, learning from people who've been doing it for years.
100%. Plus, those real-world experiences can help you figure out if it's something you're truly passionate about.
Right, because maybe you think you'd love working with fish all day, but then you actually try it and you realize, maybe this isn't for me after all.
Exactly. Better to find that out sooner rather than later.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the education and the hands-on experience, but I want to circle back to those RoleCatcher resources one more time.
Oh, yeah. They have some really cool tools to help you out.
Because besides the AI-powered resume stuff we talked about, they also have that database of interview questions, right?
Right. They have tons of questions, and they're all specifically curated for different industries and roles.
So you can actually practice your answers beforehand, go into the interview feeling more prepared and confident.
Exactly. It's like having a cheat sheet, in a way.
Love it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the day-to-day realities of being an aquaculture husbandry technician, the career path, the skills you need, even how to use AI to your advantage in the job search. But before we wrap up, I want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Sounds good.
What's driving the demand for aquaculture husbandry technicians in the first place? Why is this such a hot career field right now?
Well, it all comes down to the fact that the aquaculture industry itself is booming.
And that's because more and more people are eating seafood, right?
That's a big part of it, yeah. The global population is growing, demand for seafood is rising, and at the same time, people are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of traditional fishing methods.
Right, all those documentaries about overfishing and the damage it's causing.
Exactly. So all of that is leading to a surge in demand for sustainably farmed seafood. And who's responsible for making sure that seafood is raised responsibly and ethically?
Aquaculture husbandry technicians.
Bingo.
So it's an industry with a really important mission.
Absolutely.
And with all the technological advancements happening, it seems like a really exciting time to be involved.
It is. And who knows what the future holds? We might have underwater robot farms one day, all managed by AI.
Okay, now that's a thought. But even if it does go in that direction, we'll still need those skilled humans to oversee everything, make sure those robots are doing their jobs properly.
100%. So to anyone listening who's intrigued by all this, I say go for it. Dive in and explore the world of aquaculture. It's a rewarding field with a bright future.
I love that. It's been awesome exploring all this with you, and we hope our listeners feel inspired to do some more research on their own. There's so much more to learn about this fascinating field. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one working on that underwater robot farm.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Until next time, everyone, keep asking those questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.